Denise, can I jump across to you? Qualification
Sure.
to skills approach. What are you thinking? How do we support this process, and how do we address it as formal providers?
Yeah, so we've been working with some RTOs on this over the past, I'd say 18 months, but really over the last 8 to 10 months in a lot more focused effort. We've been working with some employers, trialing some different strategies. So working with employers and with training providers. So here's some practical approaches that employers are responding really, really well to. So we've got to look at the written assessment, because that's not going anywhere. Let's just face the sector we're in. There's going to be written assessment while we're still working with units of competency. But instead of those, let's face it, copy the textbook approaches, like, we're asking questions where we don't want to admit it, but let's face it, we're just telling the learner, could you just memorize these phrases or just go copy the textbook? I know I'm overstating it, but that's how it feels to learners, and that's how it feels to employers. That's their perception. And so when we teach training assessors to rewrite those written assessment parts to be an action-oriented understanding question, so action-oriented understanding as a written question, that's where we're starting to bring in skills. And so our research on this so far, it's still a work in progress, but so far we've found two really fascinating outcomes when we make that shift in our written assessment. So first, learners become more engaged in written assessment. So they stop seeing written assessment as just this box checking activity that, whatever. And so when we ask them to write an action-oriented understanding rather than just repeating back knowledge, they're investing significantly more effort. They're addressing actual problems that feel relevant. They're not just memorizing phrases. The other thing we're seeing is then employers are reporting a higher satisfaction, because they're now seeing a direct connection between the training and then that later workplace performance. So we're actually now seeing employers actively seek out which training providers are doing this, because they know they're going to be delivering graduates who can actually do the job, not just quote from a textbook. So here's what's really interesting. Employers and learners, they both light up when training providers are taking the time, I can't believe we're doing this, but who are taking the time to translate those unit descriptors into practical real-world application. So it's turning abstract robotic language, abstract requirements into a clear roadmap of genuine, relevant occupational skills and activities. So the training providers who are doing this well, they're still compliant, they're still doing everything correctly, but the language and the approach they're using is more action-oriented, more skills-based. Basically, they're translating that stuff. And as I said, employers, they're actively seeking to source graduates from training providers who are doing that, and they're embedding those action-oriented, real-world language throughout the entire program, from start to finish, from how it's even advertised to not just getting, yes, you'll get this qualification, but you will be able to work here or do, from start to finish. That's what employers are starting to want. That's what we're seeing. Really, it's amazing.
That is amazing. You've doubled down on that real world purpose that seems like you say, just seems so obvious. This is what the original, as Alex was saying before, what's the original purpose of VET? Like, we're getting back to that core of what VET is about. And then also thinking about who is the user of curriculum documents, and who is not a user of curriculum documents, and also how are we writing curriculum documents? You maybe think about as well. How are we preparing our training packages and writing that documentation? Is that actually effective in terms of support for the sector? Liz is just saying here as well, the inputs are a challenge. Maybe that we've got some challenges with employers wanting VET to solve challenges from earlier stages of the education system, which is a complex problem that we have within our sector.